very first episode of Reblogatog.
Episode number 1.
I said the first episode. Numero uno. Episode A. Reblogatog. It's been a feed, Chatter the Squirrels, which is a Facebook Live podcast we do every week for our local community, which we share out, so you might have seen it. But Reblogatog for us is something that I do to kind of keep the community up to date with what's going on with R&D.
Right.
Mark Rosewater, the head of R&D, Morrow. I say Maro, but it's actually Morrow.
It is Morrow.
You say tomato. You better not say tomato. I say tomato. But anyway, he does a Tumblr account called Blogatog.
Right.
And so every week I pour through it, and I usually picked out 3 to 5 generally, and sometimes I would synopsize various discussions and then share them on Chatter of the Squirrels, our weekly podcast, like I said, on Facebook Live. We decided to branch that off and do a little bit more in-depth. So instead of having 3 or 4, I've got 3 or 4 pages. So, and we're going to try to go a little deeper than we normally go, because it's normally just one segment. So we're going to see if we can spin this off and make it its own show. So anyway, this is going to be from the previous week, and each week when we do an episode, we'll see what our time lag is on getting it out. But it'll be stuff that I've looked at over the last week and I found interesting.
Right.
So,
good stuff in there.
Starting from about a week ago, which color could make token copies of lands in theory? And Morrow says green if we wanted to do it. Playtesting with token lands hasn't gone great. So I see this come up from time to time. Token lands are a problem, showing which, if they're tapped or not, getting shuffled back into the library when you're done, just scooping up all your lands.
Is there a playtest card that does this? Is this one of the reasons this came up more recently? I've seen a couple other things about token lands.
I think there might be a quote-unquote playtest card in the mystery boosters that represents this. So again, some way they can kind of feel out what people think about this.
Right.
But anyway, green would be the color that would make them.
That only makes sense. Green is the color of lands, just period.
So, there's been some talk lately, if you've been following the scuttlebutt, as they say, about Commander.
We're in the Navy now.
Sometimes. In the Navy. I don't sing, because I can't sing. But anyway, after hearing your thoughts on hybrid and EDH, because there's been talk about that lately.
Lots of talk.
Might have seen The Professor, might have listened to A Drive to Work,
Yep.
which is a podcast that Mayro does. You might have seen it in any number of places, the Command Zone, something. I'm curious how you feel about how hybrid works with devotion. The symbols themselves count as both colors there, whether the card itself is still those colors or not. It's the same exact issue as with EDH. So why is devotion okay if EDH isn't? Or if devotion isn't okay, why did you design devotion that way? So here's the response, and it's correct. Let's assume you have Athreos on the battlefield. He cares about your devotion to white and black. So what happens if you had a hybrid white-black symbol on a card on the battlefield? If hybrid were and, like it's treated in Commander, you could count it once for white and once for black. But you can't because hybrid is an or. So you only get to count it either as a white symbol or as a black symbol, but you don't get to count it as both, meaning each hybrid symbol only gets counted once. Thank you. This was a very good example to demonstrate the difference between treating hybrid as and or. And or. Yeah, I'm getting confused reading. So it does make sense. You don't get double devotion for a hybrid.
Right.
It's one or the other. So that's a valid point there. I still don't want hybrid in my Commander.
I don't either.
As an or, but it's a valid point. Where's Delve on the Storm Scale?
I don't know if I'd ever heard him given a number before, so this was awesome.
Yeah, so the Storm Scale, we've talked about it before in the podcast. If you're unfamiliar, it's how likely a mechanic is to be printed in a standard legal product.
Right.
Okay? And Storm, it's named after Storm because Storm is never coming back to standard.
Never.
Okay? not as a named mechanic, all right? And it's a 10 on the scale, so the lower the number, the more likely. So Delve, he calls it an 8, as it has huge play design concerns.
I'm surprised it wasn't a 9, but it's at least an 8.
We had it recently, and even there, it was pretty busted.
It was pretty, And, I mean, we're seeing it right now. Pioneer. Pioneer is the only format where you can play some of these Delve spells. They're still legal. Some people are calling for their bans, but they're still legal. And you see the power that is behind. I was not actually playing my deck. I did not get to experience this, but my wife playing my Is It Prowess deck, Treasure Cruise 3 times in a turn. God, that's got to feel awesome.
Fun time. Drop 9 cards, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I believe she lost that game, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. All right, so next up, being a color pie break requires you being in the color, not whether or not a deck can play the card. And this is from an earlier answer, which I don't have. This is from last week.
Right.
This is something that took me a long time to understand, and I'm still not sure I fully grok it. Mm-hmm. Desert Twister and Scour from Existence both let green remove permanents, but only Desert Twister hurts the game. So it's more than an issue of competitive balance. It's as if the colors have personalities, and color pie breaks are out of character actions. Is that at all close?
I would say yes.
So, again, a color pie break is when a color does something it shouldn't.
Right.
Green shouldn't be able to destroy a creature flat out with a card.
And
Desert Twister does that.
Destroys any permanent.
Any permanent.
Right.
So, that's what he's asking about. But yet, Scour from Existence, costing 7 and colorless, will let you exile any permanent.
Right.
So, colorless, we'll let Mayro explain. We set limits for colorless abilities. For example, it costs 7 to destroy a permanent. This keeps colorless cards from undermining the color pie. Color identity is more than just what can go in the deck, but what that color itself can do.
Right.
If we printed colored cards doing off-color things at colorless limits, it would set bad messages about what the color can do. Most players aren't good at telling rate, and that's the rate of what the card should cost. So a colored card at a bad rate just says, yeah, this color can do this.
Right.
So, again, we would end up with all colors being the same, other than green would have to pay like 37 mana to destroy a permanent.
Right.
And blue would have to, I don't know, blue gets everything, so I'm not sure what blue would have to do. But anyway, the colors are kept separate for that reason.
I like the way he described it, though. It's as if the colors have personalities, and color pie breaks are out of character actions.
Yeah.
It's it's a good metaphor for kind of understanding how the colors in the color pie.
But also, like, color identity is more than just what can go in a deck.
It is.
But what the color itself can do. So, it's a balancing act. And we've got another answer later on that talks a little bit more about it. Hey, Mark, when you were first making the guilds, shards, wedges,
all our color combinations,
did you assume that the names you assigned to them would become the colloquial names for those color combinations? And if you did you take care to name them specific names you would want to be used? We did.
I've heard.
With 2020 hindsight, we wish we'd stuck to 1 and 2 syllable names.
Yep.
So that we didn't end up with stuff like
Selesnya, I know, is one that they regret.
Selesnya,
it's very long.
It's long. But they like stuff like Orzhov or Gruul.
Yeah.
Short, Abzan.
Mardu.
Sultai. Not, I'm trying to think. But there are some 3 and 4 syllable ones.
Right.
So they like the shorter ones.
Selesnya, Golgari. The guilds have some of the longer ones, actually. Yeah. I think most of the shards and wedges actually are pretty short.
Here comes a reminder on one of my personal pet peeves. Is there any magic name that players tend to mispronounce? A lot of players call Garruk Garruk. Garruk is wrong. Garruk is correct.
Go Rook.
Go Rook.
Go Rook. Go Rook.
I don't know.
Go Rook is on fire.
Normally, if you'll look at what Wizards tries to do is do what I would call normal pronunciation.
Right.
They don't do dialects or fancy, so never pronounce it with like a French feel or
it's very alliterative.
South American feel. It's just
everything's very alliterative. It just.
So what's your biggest pet peeve you come across when interacting with your player base?
Oh, dear God. What's he actually say?
This is really good. Mero is very... Well, he writes a lot, so he's really good with the written word. He's really good at expressing feelings and putting stuff across in a great context.
He is a writer. That was his profession before. He wrote on TV shows before he made Magic.
Yeah,
so he is a writer.
Writer on Roseanne for a while.
Roseanne, yes.
He says, I get frustrated that many players can't convey a positive response without couching it in negativity. You finally made a funny comic. Why not just say, I like today's comic? If your compliment includes a dig, it's not actually a compliment. So and this happens in the real world too.
Right.
You don't quantify it. Wow, your hair looks pretty good for once.
Magic.
Don't tell somebody that.
Magic players especially are very bad about this because I don't know if we just train ourselves to looking at the value of something too much. The value, the monetary value, the card value, the play value,
cost, the rate. Yeah. Man, this card's pretty sweet if it cost one less.
How many times have you said that, let alone heard it?
Thanks for designing this great card that should have cost 1 mana less.
Right.
It's awesome almost. All right. I've seen a lot of recent asks about white, to which the response has been, that's not in white's part of the color pie. And we all know they're trying to work to make white better. It's going to take a while for R&D to get there.
It is. The game has moved away from white's central abilities is part of what I believe.
Do you feel perhaps that white's issues are more systematic than a lack of card draw? That it just isn't deep enough? It was hit badly by a lot of changes over the years that killed or weakened key early white themes like Armageddon and Prison decks.
Right.
And being able to remove everything is not in itself a way to win games. White's issues are mostly dealing with Commander. I would agree with this. The World Championship, for example, had 2 white decks in the finals. And the issue is it's a format that changed enough basic things that it weakened white's strengths and plays up its weaknesses. We're slowly making adjustments, but it's in reaction to a popular format that really warped things. White is about little creatures. It's an aggressive color that's supposed to come out and go hard and fast.
Right.
And you can't do that in Commander. You'll be dead before you get through the first player or shortly thereafter.
What I was saying, though, where I think that the game moved away from some of their key abilities is kind of what he mentions, the prison-like things, the Armageddons, the stacks, prison-like things that, especially in Commander,
those things are not fun.
They're not fun. But it was a key part of White's color identity.
Still has taxing.
And, it does. But I just mean, that's some of where, when you want to talk about raw power level for Commander, some of White's raw power is in cards that are not fun. Is its problem in Commander.
Here's my argument, and that is I have one of each monocolor, and I'm on my way to building all the combinations at some point. And no color is great on its own all the time.
Right.
Because it has weaknesses. It's why you short up with other colors. And white has a lot of great and powerful cards. So, I mean, this is only hitting a small number of people who just want to play mono white.
Right.
If you don't have the card draw, put artifacts in, put in some blue or green to draw you some cards. Yep. It's just part of the whole. But they are working on it. So we'll be seeing stuff as this runs along.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen a little bit. We're going to see more and more, I believe. So,
FYI, the short list in this blog's FAQ apparently hasn't been updated since before Amonkhet, and now includes a number of plane themes we've already visited. So first off, Mayro does have an FAQ on his Tumblr, and as part of this FAQ, there is a short list of planes that they know that people want to visit and that they are trying to get to. Well, we were recently talking about doing a podcast, an episode
about the short list,
and we were like crossing things off.
Yeah.
Like
the short list got much shorter.
We've done these, we've done this, we've done this. Can we count this as this? We really need a new list. So he's right, and Mayro's a busy guy. All right, he makes a comic every day. He does 2 podcasts a week. Yep. He answers thousands of questions on Tumblr. He writes an article every week. He designs the cards we play with.
Don't forget he makes magic cards.
Yeah, as a sideline, I guess, So anyway, why are Time Walk, Take Additional Turn cards not printed more often? Are they too powerful? Are they unfun? He says it's an effect you have to be careful with. We do make new ones, just not super often.
Right.
So yes, they are too powerful, and usually the powerful ones are unfun.
Right.
So yes, he's correct. Nexus of Fate proves that more than anything.
It does. Extra turn cards, they still do print them, and some of them are fine. Some of them have find a right balance.
Most of them have an exile effect.
Right.
You get them once, they're gone. And any that don't, those are and Nexus of Fate didn't exile itself. It just let you draw it again.
It just let you draw again. Huh. What if I only had 1 card left in my deck? Oh.
And it was an instant. Because Beacon from Tomorrow's also shuffles back in to take an extra turn. But it's not an instant.
And one of my favorites of recent years, actually, is Time Stream Navigator. It's on a creature.
Oh, yeah.
With Ascend. Once you ascend, you can get an extra turn. And I believe you put Time Stream Navigator on the bottom of your library.
Right, like Nexus of Fate.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But it's a
creature, and it has to be active and tapped. Yeah.
That seems fair. It wasn't overly costly to do it, but you had to either give it haste or wait a turn. You had to make sure you had Ascend, Gave you hoops to jump through if you wanted an extra turn.
Here's another person that doesn't really
get it.
Maybe doesn't get it. That's a good one. Doesn't get it. You can only make so many Zendikar / Ravnica / Innistrad sets before you milk the settings dry. As Theros Beyond Death shows, there are popular worlds to return to beyond just those 3.
There's several. And new worlds we'd like to go to.
And they keep making new worlds.
Right. We know we're going to Ikoria. That's our next set.
Pardon me.
We know we're going back to Zendikar. But I still feel like we have some major worlds that we know exist but haven't seen that have to be coming soon. I still feel like Vren's coming soon. I still feel like we're seeing Jace's homeworld. Kaldheim's coming, There's a lot of things. The sets are going to keep rolling.
My page cut that one off. That one actually started with, why go back to a world that didn't do well when we can go back to ones that did? Because if you keep doing that, everyone will get sick of those worlds, and you'll only be selling to the same audience without bringing in anyone new with different interests. That was the first part of his question. You can only make so many of those before you milk the settings dry. So, I don't believe we've hit that. I don't believe we've run dry on Ravnica or Zendikar or Innistrad yet, by any means.
I almost believe when I hear other people talk about it, since I didn't play through the first 2 times, just this most recent, I almost feel like the Magic community would be fine with just sticking with Ravnica for a lot of sets.
No, I'm going to stand up right now and tell you that they went to the 3-in-1 model where we were going to be bopping around from different worlds, and then the first thing they did was go to Ravnica for a year. This boy, not happy. Not happy for a whole year on Ravnica. Ravnica's a great world. Not happy.
They did give us War of the Spark, though, one of the greatest sets.
Yes. All right, so next up is why go back to a world that didn't do well when we can go back to ones that did? Because if you keep doing that, everyone will get sick of those worlds. And you'll only be selling to the same audience without bringing in anyone with different interest. You can only make so many Zendikar or Ravnica or Innistrad sets before you milk the settings dry. Mayro says, as Theros Beyond Death shows, there are popular worlds to return to besides those 3.
Right.
So this is somebody kind of short-sighted there, and I believe there's plenty of new worlds since they're doing a 50-50 mix.
Right.
And old worlds that we can go back to. I mean, I think we'll eventually get back to Tarkir even.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of worlds to return to, and the new ones they keep making, some of those will be worth returns.
Oh, I mean, I'm actually already... part of it's because it's when I started playing Magic again, and I know we still got several years, but I'm already excited to go back to Amonkhet with all the gods dead and just Hazret left, wandering the desert like Moses with all the people, and
Let my people go.
I'm interested in what happens to a plane when they realize that they're God Pharaoh.
Just was mining them for an army.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How does that plane rebuild? We've seen a lot of planes destroyed, especially in recent years. So 5+ years down the road, when we can see like planes rebuilding, could be interesting.
Yeah. So that seems cool. Hey Mark, I have been a little concerned about the power level of the lands in Commander. As land destruction is against the social contract, many don't run it. On the other hand, green decks outvalue you easily, and land decks seem very resilient and explosive. Mm-hmm. What I would like to see is more cards, specifically white, in between single targeted land destruction and mass land destruction that can deal with them without making the game experience miserable. His answer, lands are the permanent type white has the least amount of answers for. It's not really a white thing. I think the guy brings up a valid thing.
Yeah.
I don't want mass land destruction, but maybe a few more. I guess it'd be red that would get it.
Yeah.
Red spells that hit 2 or 3 lands.
Yeah.
I don't know what a good cost is there, but it's still, green can ramp. Let green ramp, but red can destroy lands.
The social contract of making I agree that the land should not be completely untouchable because it does make green specifically as a color, and just the ramp and land strategy is far too strong because in most casual play groups nobody is running any answer to those because it's not fun like we were talking about before.
Targeted land
nice.
Destruction is fine. I usually always put a ghost quarter, a strip
Field
mine,
ruin,
something.
Yeah.
Something, 1 or 2 of those in there, but maybe people should be running, let's see, Stone Rain just hits one thing, so people probably don't want to run that. What is it, Sowing Salt or something? Doesn't that hit 2 or 3? That's a red card. There are a few out there. I'd have to do a little research, and I didn't get that done, unfortunately. But I believe there are a few, but I could see them building in a few more.
Yeah. Maybe something with like I know we just had kicker, but if we ever went back to like something with multi-kicker land destruction spell, make it not cheap multi-kicker.
Right,
but know, you can kick it a couple times and boom, boom, boom.
I'd be okay. I don't want anything that's going to... I don't know about that.
When you go crazy big mana, you can blow up everybody's lands with it.
Yeah, so you ramp out there and you got 15 lands, and all of a sudden you can multi-kicker and take out 5 or 6. That seems a little...
That's fair. I was just trying to think of that ability to where it's still a card that's not... Because if you want to blow up 3 lands, it's not going to be cheap.
No, it should cost a bunch.
Right.
It really should.
But if something with kicker makes it multimodal to where, you can have it as a cheaper option and then go big with it. But
sure. Somebody asked, is there more design space in face-down cards that aren't morph? He said yes. So that's awesome.
We've seen Manifest.
Ugin,
the new Ugin's ability is like Manifest roughly, but it's a top card of your library face down, and when it dies,
right, you put it in your hand. So yeah,
they've played just a little bit, but yeah,
it's interesting. So I like it. May I request more colorless legendary creatures? This is a common thing.
Yeah,
I know they're tricky to do, but I'm sure they will make a lot of people happy. And then, like Mayro does a lot of times when people ask these kinds of things, is that something you all want more of? And if so, what aspects are you looking for? So I'm going to pose that question to you guys. Drop some comments on the video. Colorless legendary creatures. I have a colorless deck with Ulamog as my commander. And it's an interesting thing to build around. I know when we go back to Zendikar, we might get a little bit of colorless, but it's not going to be Eldrazi themed because nobody wants that. And Mayro's already said it's not going to be about the Eldrazi. I'd like to see them develop another colorless world. I want some more colorless instance.
Now, I don't believe I've had absolute confirmation, but I do believe that I do believe we are going to see Eldrazi in the Zendikar set, but not like as a major theme, but
it would be weird to see. We've got to see something colorless. The world, unless we're returning hundreds of years later, the world was devastated by the Eldrazi. There's just nothing in a lot of the world.
Right. So I think we'll still see remnants of Eldrazi. Maybe we'll see some kind of Eldrazi that have evolved. I don't know, but I think we'll probably still see some, just not as a major theme.
But I would like to see some colorless legendary creatures. As far as like I said, I'm posing the question to you. Hit up with some answers in there.
Yeah.
Hey Mark, we keep seeing alternate win cons like Thassa's Oracle.
A lot of these things lately
get made, but what about alternate draw cons like Divine Intervention? I think cards like that are really fun for EDH, and I wish there were better versions. The card got banned for causing issues in tournament play. No current plans for draw the game effects.
Yeah.
I do have that in one of my commander decks. It's very expensive, and I don't believe I've ever got it to happen.
Right.
But I don't believe anybody's happy about it.
We played 3 hours and you made us all draw the game.
Woo!
Really?
Yeah, but I ended it. Still ended it.
It is over.
It's a legal card. Why can't I play it? Commander has color restrictions, and you know that restrictions breed creativity. Of course he does. That's his saying. Can I request that you swing the pendulum away from Morophon, Golos, Kenrith, Joda, Najila, Sisay, and Tazri styled 5-color commanders? It was nice to have some of these, but I think we're getting too many, and it's making Commander too 5-color good stuff. I'm on board with this guy. Okay, Commander players, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on 5-color identity commanders. More, less, changed in some way? What would you like? Again, hit us up in the comments and post something. I would like to see a lot less.
I would too. I'd like to see them more focused on not just being good stuff. Like, I know Niv Mizzet still to some degree is really just good stuff, but the fact that he plays into the gold, the multicolor theme, something a little bit more, make the fact that they're 5-color important, or maybe so far more so than the fact that just 5-color means that you can play all the good stuff in them.
Now, I'm not sure exactly going forward how well Brawl is going to work.
Right.
I guess in Arena, maybe.
Right.
But here at a paper level, at least locally in my store, not a lot of people clamoring for it. But there was a time when Mayro had talked about stuff like Morophon, Golo, some of these guys were designed for Brawl.
Right.
To have something in standard.
Well, not Morophon, because it wasn't.
Well, not Morophon, no, but cards like this were designed so there would be 5-color abilities for Brawl, and not just 5-color abilities, but the ability to play any combination you wanted.
Right.
Because there'd be a commander that would be in that combination.
Right.
For your Brawl deck. So if you wanted to play 4-color, you could just use a 5-color commander and play the 4 colors you wanted to play.
Right.
Not necessarily the best thing, but it's a thing. So I don't know if they're going to get away from that or if they're going to stick with them.
I'm not sure, but you know, when you're bringing that up, in the last year or so, I'd say they've probably other than the 4-color, they've probably printed all the color combinations in a legendary creature.
Well, they are with making the Brawl decks, and then with making, you know, a lot of these other products that that are standard legal. It does give them the ability to print a lot of things of that nature.
Right.
So we are seeing that. So it'll be interesting to see going forward how that works out.
Right. They've even stuffed some like into the core sets recently and stuff. Like we got a Omnath was in M20, so we have a teamer option, and
I can't wait for the 4-color Omnath.
Yeah.
That's what, 3 or 4 years away? The 5-color, Bashab, at the 4-color, I'm jamming for that.
What do you think? Nano white? Do you think that's where he goes next? He adds black next? Or does he add white next?
I believe he'd have to add black next to make most sense. Which means Wizards will add white.
That's true.
I can't guess right on anything they do, so that's my theory.
That's
anyway.
very fair.
All right, Magic has a long history of totally awesome modal mechanics, like Kicker, Evoke, Cycling, Adventure. I could be here all day listing them, but most cards that end up getting printed with these abilities are too weak to see constructed play, and are mostly confined to limited. Is this an intention of the design team, and if so, why? As a constructed grinder and cube designer, push cards like these are always my favorites. I can answer this one, but we'll let Mero do it.
Yeah.
There's only so much room for top constructive cards. No matter how good you make them, only the top tier get played. And if you push too many, you create power creep.
Bingo.
And limited is a thing. He doesn't go into that, but limited is a thing. People love to draft.
Yeah.
People love limited. Sealed is even fun. Play some other kinds of Magic, duder. Come on.
Adventure was super sweet. And yeah, I'd like to see more of it too. But if they'd have just... Eldraine Limited was already kind of its own special thing because of Adventure and some of those cards. But if they'd have went even harder on Adventure, it would just be an unbearable format almost to play. You just can't... Not every card can be good. Listen to Mero on a drive to work sometime talk about why they make bad cards. They make purposely bad cards sometimes. Yes, they do
Two
that.
a week. He's been doing it for years. There's 700 or so of them.
Yeah.
Quite a few. I'm curious. Is SRAM now considered a break? In the past, you said, do white thing, then draw a card isn't in color pie for white. So is SRAM just a very heavy bend or break? Also, I understand that sometimes things need to be bent or slightly broken to aid other subproducts like Commander. Commander is not a subproduct. It is an above-average product.
And SRAM didn't come out of Commander.
We let white draw cards when the card draw pushes into a very thematically focused deck.
Right.
Like Mentor the Meek.
Right.
Is an example of that, just like SRAM.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, they do
throughout
bend and push
history.
a little
They've
bit.
got there's been a couple times they've got because I'll still put SRAM in that category of Enchantress like effects because there is a white Enchantress, I believe, and they get those kind of effects.
Then we've got this guy here who asked a weird question, but it got me thinking. Is it possible to get a legendary creature with the line of rule text, this card can't be your commander? And Mary asked, what would the point of that be? Now, there was a follow-up on this one. This card can only be used as your commander. Think this could happen? Why not let people play with the cards in other formats? My thinking was, functionally, wouldn't it be the same as cards like Command Tower and Arcane Signet? Because those cards can only be played in Commander.
Right.
They have no... They're not good anywhere else.
I was ready to say, I can play those in my standard deck.
His answer to that was, utility cards are a different animal from exciting, build-around creatures. I don't know if I agree with him on this one.
I'm with you.
I think if you can put a utility card in there, you can make a build-around creature that was just for Commander. And they've done it for Commander products.
Right.
I mean, I guess they haven't nailed it super hard, but like Oloro gains you life from the command zone. So if you play him in a regular casual deck, you don't get that 2 life from the command zone. You got to have him in play.
You had the whole Eminence. Yeah, the whole cycle of
Eminence. Yeah. So they've designed some of the stuff, but I don't know. It seems like it might be an interesting thing for them to try.
It's another place to go.
If you're new to this podcast, just checking us out. If you notice on my shirt, it says Deranged Tournament up here. It's got a squirrel. You know, that's a thing at my store, Grove Gamers Guild. We like squirrels. It's my mascot. And it's on my t-shirts. It's in a lot of stuff that we do. Much like Mark Rosewater, I love squirrels, and he's always pushing to get them back into Black Border. So I'll probably share a lot of squirrel questions that you might not have any interest in, so you can kind of
Wait, who doesn't like squirrels?
I don't know.
They were so...
But apparently there's enough out of them there they can keep them out of Black Border.
Well, they were too competitive.
15 of them take down Emrakul. That's pretty badass right there. So anyway, as you push squirrels more and more into the universe of Magic, I worry that you may typecast the creature type even more among your R&D counterparts as not serious enough for Black Border Magic. Squirrels have been in Black Border for a long time, and I'm hoping to see a legendary elf version of Deranged Hermit. That'd be sweet. I want him as my commander. To lead a commander deck in the future. Are you worried that using them for comedic value compromises their chance to come back in Black Bordered or Standard? He says, I've put them in Silver Border because otherwise there would be no new ones printed. And he hasn't given up the fight to get them back in Black Border. I'm stubborn. I'll get there eventually. Man, I hope so.
I hope so, too.
I hope so.
We did get some in Black Border, not in Standard, but Modern Horizons did give us some reprints and did give us Deep Forest Tournament. So
right.
That was a little bit of movement towards
It's a little bit of movement. We're making some progress. So, if-when. Sometimes people will ask him if-when. And sometimes he has these days where he will have a theme to the days. And he's had if-when, whole days when people ask if-when. So, if-when on purple rares returning, either for a similar or different reason. And he says, do you mean a bonus sheet like Time Spiral? I think when.
Right.
So, a bonus sheet like Time Spiral, he thinks when. If you weren't around for Time Spiral, there was an extra sheet. So, it was kind of like an extra rare in each package.
Right.
Each pack, but some of them were commons. It's just that all of them had the same commonality.
Right.
Because there was one per
slot,
pack.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a neat thing to do.
Right. I mean, remember we discussed this ourselves months and months ago. Did we discuss this? Was it for War when we were talking about how are they going to put a Planeswalker in every pack, or
we may
was it
have
something else? We thought they were going to possibly purple stamp and give us a special. I don't remember if that's what we were talking about. If it was something else,
I don't remember. We talk a lot.
Yeah, we do.
We talk a lot. So anyway, that's a cool thing. Would a monster-centric set like, say, Ikoria, and it is Ikoria.
You got it that time.
Not Ikoria. Be a place we might see a squirrel or two. I'll fight for a squirrel in any set. Polynesian miniature poodle world? The poodles have to chase something. Man, you think we might get a Polynesian miniature poodle world?
I mean, that'd be...
There is somebody listening out there that thinks that sounds cool.
I mean, I know absolutely nothing about Polynesian miniature poodles, but it sounds kind of interesting at least.
Sounds like it could be cool, especially if they're chasing squirrels.
No doubt.
I'd be all in. I feel like an important facet of Ikoria is giant squirrels in green. Told you I'd mention squirrel stuff. How could it not have squirrels? Smiley face.
Means it probably doesn't.
It probably does. So, how much design space is there around counters you give yourself or your opponents? We have poison and energy. Can there be others? There's also experience from
Experience.
Commander.
I was very
So there are three types. And he says it's fairly deep, which is cool. I'd like to see him explore that. Give us more counters. I find that very interesting that he says it's fairly deep. I hadn't thought about it, but when I read this, it got me a little excited to think that we could have some more counters on us players.
Right. Well, I mean, as long as they don't make the same mistakes they made with energy.
Well, you know.
But yeah, no, it's something you got to think of. All these years of Magic, there's only 3 things that give a counter to a player. There's got to be design space left,
and only 2 sets that had proliferate so far.
Ooh.
Here's the thing I thought I'd throw out just because it's a weird little tweak. There are odd questions that get answered, and I'm usually not going to post them. One of the things I'm probably not going to do a lot of is unquestions.
Right.
Because a lot of people ask, we had this interaction come up with Frankie Peanuts and whatever. I'm probably not going to do a lot of those. And I'm probably going to do a lot, every once in a while they ask him about his toaster. Goes way back. But Mayro, I know you're not fond of bananas, but can a banana duct tape to a wall be considered art? It might be the best use for a banana. It is well known for people who read Blogatog and listen to his stuff. He doesn't like bananas.
He doesn't like bananas.
He doesn't like a lot of stuff. He says, be a better eater than me. He eats a ham and provolone sandwich every day for lunch.
Yeah.
Drinks nothing but ice water except for one soda on the weekend. And a bunch of other weird things.
Yeah. It's working for him.
It's working for him. You got it. I know it was before your time, I think. But can you shed any light on the design behind Legends legendary creatures? So both legendary and multicolor were brand new things. So they were exciting, even though the power level was on the low side. Play design / development wasn't really a thing yet. This is really early. They were cranking these things out in Richard Garfield's dorm room maybe at this point.
Legends, actually, I believe, if I've read right, Legends was made like entirely by the East Coast playtest group.
Yeah.
Which were all friends of Richard Garfield. I don't know if Richard Garfield even did any work on it. They needed cards for a Magic set. Here's a Magic set.
Right.
We made...
That sounds right.
We made new gold cards, and there's legendary creatures. Oh, cool. Print it.
So things have come a long way since then. And as much as you might not like, because some of those miss really low on the power scale.
Oh, yeah. Some of them were
nowadays,
just vanilla creatures.
We also get upset when they miss on the high side.
Yeah.
Like with Energy.
Yeah.
Like with the artifact lands back in Mirrodin and such.
Oh, yeah.
So, that also is a thing. But that's why. I mean, this was early.
Yeah.
That was the Wild West of Magic, guys.
Yeah, Legends.
I tune in to listen to chatter sometimes. I'm doing 25 years ago in Magic every week. And listen, next week I'm going to be talking, if you listen to chatter, I'm going to be talking about Type 1, Type 2, and Sealed, and how the DCI operated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not the original. But
yeah. But yeah, it's crazy because, in Legends you literally had like 5 CMC 3/3 legendaries, but they were 3 different colors.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so of the 18 cards that have rain in their name,
this is really interesting.
9 of them, 50%, destroy at least one land. What does Magic think rain does? Erosion. Rain does destroy land.
It does.
Erosion. That's his only answer. Erosion, because straight up, that's what it is.
You know, I bet he saw that statistic and went, huh? Half of them, huh?
So sometimes Mayro will ask people to kind of add up results for him if he takes like a little informal poll,
right?
Like, what would you like, or this or that, and then sometimes people just do it without him even asking. So the overall notion about 5-color commanders, which we talked about,
right,
is less 5-color commanders and narrower themes if you print new 5-color commanders. 89% accurate. 66 votes for less commanders, many that want them more restricted. 7 want the same ratio if more restricted. 6 want less that have mana costs like Golos, Sisay, Tazir, and more that cost Wooburg. White, blue, black, red, green.
Golos.
Wooburg.
Yeah. Golos and Sisay actually do not cost all 5 colors, but have all 5 colors in their color identity from their rules text.
The opinion on 5-color good stuff differs. Kendrith and Golos were named the most. Niv was quite polarizing.
See,
and he thanks him for compiling the results. So there's some results on what, about 100 people or so thought.
We talked about that question a minute ago. And like they said, Niv being polarizing, I get it. I think it's really cool design space. To be honest, Niv Mizzet it was. But things like Golos and Kenrith, I get where people can just be like, that is the definition of 5-color good stuff.
Yeah. Another thing that people ask him, because Mayro talks about the colors of like pop culture icons, or comic book characters, or TV characters, or movie characters. So I threw a couple of those in so that you get a taste of those. Hello, Mark. What colors would Galactus be? He's pretty green. Now, it's no mistake that I mentioned that. Well, it was one that was in there, but I like green. And he's pretty green.
You know,
Poison Ivy is usually who he mentions as being a evil green character when they ask for him.
I know that in my opinion of Galactus, I would almost have to put Galactus up there in like just colorless. He's very similar to an Eldrazi in a lot of ways, other than lack of tentacles. His purpose, what he does, devouring worlds across the multiverse, essentially.
I think, though, if you gave Eldrazi a color, they were made colorless for, I don't know, reasons. But if you gave the Eldrazi a color, I think you'd have to make them green.
That may be possibly there.
They want things to be the way things are. They believe in the natural order, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're just doing, by instinct, what they do.
Right.
So I believe they're green. One other one, what is Wolverine's color identity? And he says it was originally pretty mono green, but over the years and in the movies, they've added some white and red.
See, I'd almost disagree with that. I'd almost say he's kind of Gruul from the get-go. There's a lot of, he's very Gruul. I feel like even from the get-go. I can see where they've added the white in. I can see that, but Gruul smash, a little bit, you know.
And then our final one for the night, and then we're going to call it a day. Mark, haste is a break for white, even considering that it's partially an aggressive color? It's less a break than not something the color does. And this is, again, talking about something we talked about earlier.
Right.
Not every color pie choice is about not undermining the color's weakness. Some of it is about flavor and philosophy, while some is about differentiation of gameplay. So, not everything is anti-white that could be in white. Not everything is anti-green that could be in green. They look at all those things.
Right. And, like, I think on this one, the big thing is, if you start giving white haste, what's the difference with red? Red also has aggro color that has cheap, low-cost, efficient creatures, but it gets ones with haste. It gets a 1/1 for 1 with haste, while white gets a 1/1 for 1 that gains you a life.
It probably gets a 2/1 for 1.
Right.
It gets a Savannah Lion. So, you know, there are differences. In red, they've made a lot of progress on in the last few years.
Yeah.
Red has gotten better in Commander. This impulse draw that they've given red has been really good. If they can find something that works in white to shore up its weaknesses like they did with red,
right,
then, excuse me again, then they're going to make a lot of Commander players happy anyway, right? So, anyway, that's all I've got for this week. I hope you've enjoyed Reblogatog. Please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Again, I'm reading through probably hundreds of answers each week to cull it down into, I don't know, there's 30 or 40 here, maybe at best. You know, so, and we're going to try, I don't know exactly how long this show came out to be in. We had a battery failure.
Right.
We were unprepared this time, and we had a battery change. You'll see the blip in there somewhere.
Yeah.
He'll splice it good, but
camera probably didn't get back in the same spot and everything's
You'll see the change.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're probably going to hit 30 minutes to hour each week as we go over some stuff, and hopefully we all learn something. But do leave some comments because we really appreciate it. And that's all for this week.
Yep. We'll see y'all later.
See you next week with a Reblogatog. Deuce. Once again, in 4, 3, 2, 1. Come sit down.
I'm right here.
You're going to edit it.
I know I'm going to edit it.
Now he's not going to edit and leave it in just to make me go crazy.
Well,
So you did make sure the mic was on still, right?
yeah, the mic is still on. There's a
Okay.
little light,
Right.
green light. I assume that means
All right.
it's on.
All right, I'm just checking.
Usually, like no light or red light means off.
All right, whatever. So anyway,